Hello everyone, welcome to episode 6 of Masterclass Series 2025. I'm Bava, your product expert, and I'm thrilled to have you here with us today. In this session, we are diving deep into the world of change management, one of the most critical yet complex areas in ITSM. We'll explore how you can master the change process and effectively mitigate risk using custom crafted workflows in ServiceDesk Plus Cloud. Now that you know what's ahead, here is what we will be covering in today's session. We'll start by configuring the core elements of change management like change advisory board and stages. Then, we will walk through creating change templates for different types of changes, whether it's a routine standard change or an urgent emergency one. You'll also see how easy it is to visually design the workflows using our drag and drop builder, followed by setting up the automation rules to seamlessly manage every phase of change, from submission to implementation. And finally, we'll explore how you can tie in release and project management features to ensure smooth and successful change deployment. Before we get into the feature walkthrough, I would like to explain the different editions that are available in ServiceDesk Plus Cloud. The standard edition is focused on core IT help desk functionalities like incident management, customizing the ticket templates, building the life cycle, and self-service portal login, knowledge base, SLA management, and reporting. The professional edition builds on that with asset management features like multimodal asset discovery and import, visual lifecycle builder, software management, asset loans, asset inventory reports and analytics, purchase and contract management. Then we have Enterprise Edition, which is a most feature rich version that includes IT service desk, service catalog, problem management, change and release management, along with its workflow builders and CMDB. Just so you know, everything we are showcasing today is based on Enterprise Edition. So if you have been using a different plan, some features might look a little different or may not be available in your instance. So if you need any assistance in purchasing or upgrading your plan, please drop an email to sales@manageengine.com. Before we move ahead, here is something that could be really helpful for your team. We offer a free 1 hour personalized consultation with our product experts. In this session, we will analyze how you are using the application and provide a custom list of features and best practices tailored to your ITSM tool. All you need to do is scan the QR code on this slide and register, and one of our consultants will reach out to you to schedule a session. It's completely free and it's a great way to discover the features that you may not be using it. We will keep the screen on for next few seconds for you to scan the QR code. Now let's get into the topic. For those who already attend the masterclass, you might have been aware of Zilker. For those who aren't, Zilker is a fictional company that we often use to represent real world IT scenarios. So let's set the stage. Zilker Life Sciences Inc. is a major player in pharmaceutical industry with a global footprint. Recently, they successfully thwarted a ransom attack. While they managed to fend off the cyber attack, their internal investigation uncovered vulnerabilities in their security perimeter that could have been exploited. In response, Zilker's management acted swiftly, instructing their IT security teams to overhaul the security infrastructure to prevent future breaches. But there are challenges that we need to acknowledge. First, the project involves numerous teams and stakeholders who unfortunately do not work in sync. This misalignment makes coordination difficult and increases the chances of miscommunication and conflict. Second, the types of changes we encounter are quite diverse, but there is no structured change control process in place. This lack of structure leads to delays and setbacks because changes are not tracked, prioritized, or managed properly. And finally, Zilker rushed to implement the project, and this urgency, combined with the absence of change control, resulted in chaos, especially during a very busy Q4 of 2023. And these challenges led to some serious consequences. First, a far reaching security infrastructure project becomes necessary. This includes implementing an immutable backup infrastructure, auditing and closing unused ports and protocols, and migrating to a next generation firewall system. While critical, all of this adds complexity and risk. On top of that, there are dozens of routine changes happening at the same time. Business as usual updates and maintenance work that still needs to get done, creating even more change noise. And then, to make matters even worse, a parallel emergency change comes into play. Something unplanned and urgent that needs immediate attention. All of this cumulates in a major availability incident. At this point, Zilker's CRM, ERP, database, and application goes down. And what's worse, the incident response team, or IRT, is left clueless. They can't figure out whether a change caused this incident, and if it did, which one was it? This led to what was essentially an avoidable change led outage. Every digital system at Zilker went offline, and the IT team was unable to pinpoint the cause, creating confusion and panic. As a result, critical business functions like R&D, clinical trials, and regulatory affairs were brought to a standstill, impacting the entire organization. So, what went wrong? In their rush to implement the project, the security team made two key mistakes. They did not properly test the firewall filtering rules and they failed to seek approvals from broader change advisory board, which is CAP, that would have included critical stakeholders. These oversights turned what could have been a manageable change into a full-blown outage. Let's break down the chaotic change landscape and see what exactly went wrong. It starts with the absence of structured change workflows. There were no unique change controls defined for different types of changes. Everything was treated in the same way, which is risky. Then, siloed tools across different teams meant there was no visibility in peer progress, change queues, or ongoing projects. This lack of coordination created blind spots. On top of that, the submission process itself was spotty. Changes, even the high impacted ones, were poorly planned and scheduled, without regard for dependencies or risk. There wasn't a proper system to assess risk or understand the impact of changes. Why? Because there was no unified ITSM platform and no CMDB to track which systems were connected. There was also a very little control or oversight. Since approvals were not enforced automatically, teams could make risky changes without checks or reviews. And to make things even worse, there were no proper staging or quality checks before deploying changes. That means change went live without testing, leading to chances of failures or outages. So, what's the need of the hour for Zilker's IT change manager? It's clear that Zilker needs a change management practice that is grounded in two key principles: automated governance and precise risk analysis. Let's look at how Zilker can handle a major IT change, like migrating to a next generation firewall system without risk. It all starts with the change submission. The change is logged and the team records why the change is necessary. So there is full visibility from the beginning. Next, risk assessment. The team evaluates what kind of risk this change could introduce and how much it could impact the business. Then comes the planning. Every small detail is mapped, from how the change will roll out to or how it will be rolled back in case of any failure. Nothing is left to chance. Now let's talk about the timing. Suppose Zilker has a change freeze in Q4. The firewall migration must be scheduled outside that window. This is where the conflict detection and freeze window comes into play. And finally, impact analysis. With the help of CMDB, the team understands exactly which services, assets, or users could be affected. This eliminates guesswork and ensures the change does not break anything unexpected. This is how a change becomes risk free, not by luck, but by following the right process with the right tools. Now, let's take a look at how the change, like the firewall upgrade, is actually executed smoothly, step by step. It begins with CAB approval. You bring together all key stakeholders, the CAB, to review the plan and make sure everyone's aligned before going ahead. Next, we enter the staging phase. This is where the team performs the staging test to stimulate the rollout and make sure everything sticks to the plan. Then we move to the production. Every task is tracked closely. If anything goes off track or shows unexpected behavior, it is flagged immediately. After that comes the release. The change is deployed along with other related changes as one consolidated release, minimizing disruptions. Then we do review. A proper postmortem helps us to learn from what went right and what didn't. These insights improve future changes. And finally, we move on to the next milestone. Once the change is successfully completed, it's closed out and the team prepares for the next step in the project. With this kinds of governance first practice, Zilker can hit one security milestone after another without any surprises. So let's start with the basics. Customizing the help desk. Zilker's team customized the help desk forms and fields to collect exactly the information they needed from the user. By designing clear templates and forms, they made it easy for the users to raise requests and ensure technician had all the information upfront. This means less back and forth, faster response time, and more accurate handling. So, Zilker's team distinguished various types of changes, releases, and projects that undertaken in their organization. And they established the change advisory board along with the necessary key stakeholders. Also, they defined closure code for changes, releases, and projects. Now, let me take you to the application and show you how to build the basic customizations. So go to setup, the settings icon on the top right of the screen. Under customization, we will have change management. So in change management, you will be able to customize the change type, cap, change risk, reason for change, closure code, stages and status, change roles. First, let's see about the change type. So by default, we have provided four change types: major, minor, normal, and significant. We will be able to categorize change request by their severity level using the change type. To create your own customized change type, click on this button and start by adding the name of the change type, then proceed with adding the description. Then you will color code the particular change type as per your requirement. Then you will choose if this particular change type is going to be a pre-approved change. If you want this change type to be a pre-approved change, you will enable this toggle on. Not only from here, even in this page, you can click on the shield icon so that this particular change type will be a pre-approved change. So all the changes that we are creating in this particular change type will be pre-approved. Next comes the CAP. Change Advisory Board is a cross functional team that evaluates change requests for business needs, priority, cost, and any other potential impact to other teams and processes. To create a CAP, click on this button, add the name and description, then go ahead and choose all the CAP members that you want in this particular CAP. So once you create this CAP, while configuring the approval in the change request, you can select this particular CAP so that all the CAP members will get notified about the approval. I will show you how to configure the approval shortly. Then comes the change risk. Any risk that is implemented may or may not involve risk. It depends on the impact and how successful the change is. That is why it is important to define the risk associated to the changes. So we have provided three options by default: high, low, and medium. If you want, you can click on this button to create a new risk as per your requirement. We will see how we can automate the risk prediction using our artificial intelligence shortly. Then comes the reason for change. The reason for change explains why the change was initiated, which is critical for evaluating the purpose of change and understanding its impact on various stakeholders. So it can be a antivirus or firewall upgrade. So the change can be related to the new services or patch update or to improve the productivity or security compliance, or it can be any upgrade based on technological changes. So while creating the change, you will choose the respective reason. Then comes the closure code. So while closing the change, the technician will define the closure code. Closure code refers to why a change was closed. A change can be closed because it was completed, rejected, deferred, or approved or cancelled. So the change owner or change manager will choose the respective closure code and they will close the change. Next comes the stages and statuses. So we have 8 stages from submission to closure. Once the change is submitted, it will move to the next stage, which is planning. This is where we will analyze the impact details, the rollout and backward plans, and if there are any checklists that needs to be performed. Then once everything is planned, it will move to the approval stage. Once the CAB members approved it, it will move to implementation where we will trigger multiple tasks and involve other team members in the project. So once the implementation is completed, it will move to testing, and if the testing is successful, we will release the change, and after that we will do a review and we will close the change. So these are the stages, and you will have different status under each stage. If you want to customize your own status, you can click on this add button or you can click on new change status. You can select the stage in which you want to add the status and proceed by adding the status name. Now let's move on to the next part, which is change role. So there will be multiple roles involved in a change, right? So the person who is requesting for the change is considered to be the change requester. And the one who is responsible for the change is change owner and change manager, who oversees the change process, who has the highest privilege in the change. Next come the approvers and the CAB members. Then the one who is responsible for implementing the change will be defined as implementer, and the person who is accountable for changes lifecycle will be defined as line manager, and we have reviewer who reviews the change process and UAT owner who organize the testing. And if you want to create your custom role, you can click on this option. You can add the name, the description, and you have the facility to choose if this particular role will be played by all users or only by the technicians. Once you configure this, you will give the access permission for each stage as per your requirement and you will hit on save. So based on the access permission that you have provided, this particular user will be able to perform actions accordingly. So now that we have discussed about the basics, let's move on to the next topic. Zilker built a well-defined custom templates using a simple drag and drop canvas. This allowed them to capture all necessary contextual information right at the beginning of any process, whether it's a change, release, or project. These templates weren't just generic. Zilker created a purpose-built templates for every key process like change, release, and project modules. This gave their technician a proper head start. Instead of spending time on back and forth emails or calls to get any missing details, they had everything upfront. So let me show you how to create and customize the change templates by going to the application. So go to setup. Under templates and forms, you will have the change template. So by default, we have provided the general template and emergency template. If you want to create a new change template, you can click on this button where you will get this canvas with all these default fields. If you feel like you do not want to have these fields, you can simply click on this delete option to remove those fields from the template. And if you want to include those fields again, in the right hand side, all the fields will be available in this section. So you can simply drag and drop it down to the template. That's it. You will be able to easily remove or any fields into the template as per your requirement. Let's say that you need an additional field which is not available here. You can click on the new button here where you can see different field types. So you can choose whichever field type that you want, just drag and drop it down to the template and start by adding the name and hit on save. That's it. The field has been successfully created. And again, if you want to remove this field, you can click on this delete option. Or if you want to mandate this field, click on the setting icon and enable this field. So this is how you will customize the template in the submission stage. Now, let me open a predefined change template that I have created already. So once you complete the customization in the submission part, this is the page you will be getting where you can see other stages like planning, cab evaluation, implementation, UAT release review, and close. So you will be able to add the additional fields into each stage as per your requirement. Not only the additional fields, you can also define the task under each stage as per your requirement. And all the tasks that you are adding across each stage will be listed in this task section. From here also, you can create a new task and you can move it to the respective stages as per your requirement. And in the submission stage itself, we will have the change requester, the change owner, and change manager. All other roles, such as the change approver, line manager, reviewer, UAT owner, implementer, will be available under the roles section. If you feel like you do not want the UAT owner for this particular change template, you can simply remove that role from this template. And if you want to create a new role, you can use this button and you can create a new role from here as well. Then comes the form rule. Form rule helps you to perform any action such as to hide or show fields or to mandate or unmandate field based on any certain condition. While creating a change template, I will show you how we can utilize the form rules in the change template. Then comes the additional settings. In additional settings, you will have the privilege to choose if this particular change template should be available for the requesters. If yes, if you want to give this template to all the users or if you want to restrict to any specific user group. If you want to make this template available for any specific user group, first you will create the user group under users and permissions. Once the user group is created, they will be listed here in this section that you can choose as per the requirement. Also, you can define how you want to trigger the task. That's it. This is how you will customize a change template. Now let me cancel this. And next we have the release template. So by default, as we have in the change template, we have general and emergency template for release as well. In release, we will have 8 stages. So first, you will customize the submission stage. Once the submission stage is, one moment, let me add the name. Okay, so once I save this, all other stages will get appeared in the left hand panel. So you will be able to add multiple fields and you will be able to completely customize the template as per your requirement. So these templates weren't just generic. We can create a purpose built template for every key process. Now, as we have discussed about the template, let's move on to the next stage, which is change risk assessment and prediction. Here's how Zilker added an extra layer of intelligence to their change management process. They used a custom built module along with Zia, our AI assistant, to assess potential risk associated with each change. This meant that before a change was rolled out, Zilker already had an idea of how risky it was, whether it might disrupt services, affect critical assets, or create compliance issues. Now, let's break down how Zilker made this possible in practice. They started by configuring a structured questionnaire to identify and evaluate potential risk associated with the changes. It was designed to systematically identify and evaluate the risk by asking the right questions. Then comes the intelligence layer. They trained Zia, the AI engine, using historical change records, feeding it data like the change type, impact, urgency, and emergency using Zia artificial intelligence. Based on this learning, Zia could predict how risky a new change request might be, flagging potential problems before this happens. Now let me take you to the application and show you how to configure this. So click on the settings icon again, and under ZIA you will have artificial intelligence where you can see predictive features and Gen AI features. Under predictive features, click on the drop down next to request and go to change management. Here is where you will enable the risk prediction. So once you turn this on, based on the previous change records in your organization, ZIA will train itself and it will give the prediction based on the learning. Also, you can create a custom module by navigating to developer space. So here you will create a custom module, and by going to the customization option, you will import the data. So you can create a set of questions, you can add those questions in the template, and you can provide the answers, and based on those answers you can provide the scores as well, so that once we are creating a change ticket, once we update those answers based on the score, Zia will give its prediction. I will show you how to add the additional fields to the template. So if you go to this template, we already discussed that you will be able to easily drag and drop down the additional fields, right? So as you see, I have a separate section here where I have updated my question arrays. So let me create a change template for you. So while creating a change, you will choose the change template. Once you select the change template, the associated workflow will get selected automatically and all the fields that you have customized will get listed here. Now I'm going to choose the change requester name, the change type, and the impact, urgency, priority, the change owner who is Bonnie, and the change manager. So after you add all these information, then comes the next part, which is risk assessment. So these are the questionnaires I have uh, inputted based on my organization's need. Like this, you can add multiple options as per your requirement. So I'm going to choose there is no outage. So once you add all these fields, once the Zia learning is successfully completed, you will get the Zia prediction here. So you will get all the options available in change risk, including the default ones and the custom built ones. So above this, Zia will give the predictions. Now, once you choose the prediction, you will go ahead and you will choose the migration type. This is where the field and form rules comes into place. As you see, under change details section, I have only one question, right? Which is migration type. If I choose firewall shift, based on this options, based on this option, other fields will get populated automatically. Or if you're going to choose hardware replacement, you can give the set of questions that are related to hardware replacement or software upgrade. Now, as this is going to be a firewall, I'm going to update these fields and proceed with choosing the CSI section, which is nothing but the category, subcategory, and item. So I'm going to choose the category. Sorry. So once you choose all these options, then comes the more information where you will configure the scheduled start time and the end time. Here, the scheduled start time is 29th of July 2025 to 15th of August 2025. And you can choose what are the services that are going to get affected by this particular change, and if there are any assets that are involved. And also, we have this field called CIs involved. So if you have any CIs that is going to get affected by this particular change, you can choose those CIs. So we will first configure the CIs in the CMDB module. So all the CIs will get listed here. You can make the selection based on your requirement. Then you will choose the reason for the change. Then add the title, firewall upgrade. Then you will add the description, you will add the attachments, and you will select the other roles as per the requirement and hit on save. That's it. A change ticket has been successfully created. So we already discussed how we can customize the basic settings, how we can configure the template, and also the risk assessment by Zia. Now, let's dive into how Zilker optimized their change and release process using workflows and automations. To eliminate manual steps and human error, Zilker leveraged a visual workflow builder to automate actions, enforce consistency, and guided technicians at every stage, from submission to closure. They defined a clear workflow transitions, automatically triggering status change and approvals based on conditions like risk level, priority, or stage. But they didn't stop there. Zilker also configured freeze window to prevent deployments during business critical periods or maintenance downtime. Let me show you how to do these configurations. So go back to the application and click on setup. Under automation, you can find workflows. So in workflows, click on the drop down next to change. Next, click on the drop down and choose change module. So here you will get all the workflows that you have already created. To create a new one, you can click on new workflow, or if you want to copy the existing one and if you want to customize it, you can choose the copy workflow option and choose the workflow that you want to copy from. And click on copy and edit. Sorry. Okay, let me show you how to create a new workflow. Firewall upgrade. And you can choose what type of workflow is this gonna be a general workflow or emergency workflow? If it is an emergency workflow, it is not necessary to include all 8 stages. Based on the requirement, you can select a few stages which will help us to move and complete the change quickly. Now I'm going to choose the general workflow and hit on next. That's it. You will get the canvas. Every time the submission stage is gonna be the stage 1, and you can click on this arrow mark and where you will see multiple nodes like flow node, condition node, action nodes, and branch nodes. You will just simply drag and drop down the stage node and you will choose which stage you want next. Here I want the planning stage, and you can also customize what are the status that you want to include for this particular workflow. So I'm going to choose approved, planning in progress, and rejected. So I just need these three options. Now, based on condition, I can move the change from one stage to another. Let's say that, let me show you how. Based on change type. Okay, change type is major. So let's say that I want the change to move to next stage automatically if a change type is major. Then I will make a automatic transition from submission stage to this particular condition node, and if the condition is yes, then it will move to the planning stage. So if the change is not major, then I have another option which is manual transition. So the change owner or the change manager will manually check the change. They will choose if the change wants to move to the next process. If yes, they can move it accordingly. So I'm going to make one more manual transition and move to planning. Hit on save. That's it. So the technicians will get an option in the right hand side to move the change to the next stage manually. Now comes the next stage, which is approval, right? So I'm going to choose all three statuses here, and from planning in progress, if they update any fields. So let's say that if the change type is not a mandatory field, they may or may not update the change type or change risk. So you can use the wait for condition node. So what will happen is if you put the change risk as a condition, it will wait until the change risk field gets updated. If it is not assigned, then the workflow will get paused. After updating the value in that change risk, it will move to the next stage, which is cap evaluation. For now, I'm going to automatically move, sorry, to the next stage, which is approval pending. So trigger approval. So I have made a manual transition here. So once the change comes to the planning stage, the change owner will plan the rollout plan, the backout plan. So once everything is planned, they will move the change manually to the next stage. Then comes the implementation. Once the change is approved, the next step is implementation, right? So I'm going to choose these options and hit on save. So before moving the change to the implementation stage, in the cab evaluation, we need to trigger the approval, right? So you will drag and drop down the approval node. You will add the name of the approval, which is cab approval, and here you can choose the approval based on change role, change users, or organization roles or technician groups, or you can manually select individual users, or you can choose the cab. Here I'm going to choose this particular cab. So as we saw earlier, we have three members in this particular cab, right? So once this workflow reaches the cab evaluation stage, all those three approvers are going to get notified. So I'm going to make an automatic transition to trigger the approval. And once it is approved, the approval status will get approved. And from this approved, it will move to the next transition, which is implementation in progress. So from implementation, the technician will manually trigger the task. They will include other team members, or if you have any predefined task for this kind of workflow, you can use this task node and you can trigger the task automatically. For now, I'm just proceeding without adding anything to the next stage, which is the testing phase. Accepted, in progress, and on hold. Hit on save. Now, from implementation, I'm going to make a manual transition to testing phase. Move to testing. Save. Now, once the testing is completed, then comes the release phase. Then we have review. So let me quickly add those two stages over here. Then we have review, and in review, I have three stages as completed, failed, or in progress, and hit on save. So once you make the transition, you will manually add the name that you want to populate in the change template. So I'm going to choose review, sorry, release. Then we have review, right? So once you configure all this transition, you will save this. So from completed, that's it. The workflow has been successfully created. Also, we have other nodes, like if you want to trigger the notification, or if you want to do the field update or run a custom function, or if you want to perform any action based on timer. Let's say that you want to update any field, or if you want to trigger a notification after a certain period. Then you can use this timer option. Then if you want to send any third party notification, you can use this button. If you want to send a notification via Teams to the technician or in a channel, you can use this third party notification action to trigger the notification. Then we have branch node and join node. Let's say that if you want to perform multiple actions, like if you want to trigger the approval and trigger a notification at the same time, that is multiple action, right? So you will use a fork node to trigger multiple actions, and once those actions are completed successfully, you will use the join node to join them and it will move to the next stage. Now I'm going to save this. So that's it. We have successfully created the workflow. Even in the release module, we have the same options. So you will choose the drop down and you will go to the release module where you will, I'm going to add the name, just give me a minute, firewall. And you can choose if it is going to be a general change or emergency one and hit on next, where you will have the option to drag and drop down the stage, the condition notes, the action notes as per your requirement. Now, as we have customized the workflow, let me open the change and show you how this workflow reflects in the change. So once you open the workflow, in the right hand side, you can see which workflow is associated to this particular change. And at the top, you can see the lifetime actions. So as you see from the submission, as the change type is major, it has been automatically moved to planning in progress. In planning in progress, I will configure the impact details, the rollout and backout plan, and I will plan the schedule, the release schedule and the downtime schedule. And if I want to trigger any task or do any associations like the request or problem which has initiated this particular change, then once everything is configured, the next step is to trigger the approval, right? Just click on this button and add the status command approval and hit on save. So in the cab evaluation stage, if you go to the approvals tab, as you see, the approval has been triggered to all these three people. Now I'm going to approve this change. So as the change is approved, you see in the right hand side, the approval status got approved automatically. So in the implementation stage, I can trigger multiple tasks as per the requirement. And if I want to associate any other change or any project into this particular change, I can do those associations. And once this is completed, I will move this to the testing phase. Implementation completed. So in UAT stage, the UAT owner or the change manager can do the testing and they can move the change to the next phase. That's it. Now the change will be moved to the release phase. From here, you will configure the release schedule, you will plan the downtime of this change, and if there is any actual downtime, you will update them. And if you have any associations such as release. So we have a separate module for release, right? Either you can maintain the release from here itself, or if you want to accumulate multiple changes and do that as one major release, you can create a new release by going to the release module or directly from the change itself. So I'm going to click on new release. Here I will get the option if I want to copy the field values from this specific change. If yes, I can choose this option, or if not, you can just to go with do not override and click on apply. Now, all the fields that I have added in the change template will get updated here automatically. Here, I will choose the release requester, the release engineer, and the release manager. So, first, you will give the change manager and the release manager role to the technicians by navigating to users and permissions and technicians. If you open any technician profile, we have this option to give the roles. So, here you have the change manager and the release manager. Only if the release manager role is assigned to any user, their name will be populated here. So you will choose the respective details and you will hit on save. That's it. A release has been associated to this particular change. You can go to the release by clicking on this button. So in release, we have multiple options like submission, planning, development, testing, UAT, deployment, training, review, and closure. So once the release is successfully completed, you will come back to the change and you will move the change to the next stage, which is review. Review and hit on save. So in review, we will collect the feedbacks from the users. We will analyze if this is affecting any services. If yes, we will immediately roll out the change because we already have the rollout plan handy, right? Or if everything goes well, we can go ahead and we can close the change by choosing the respective closure code. Successfully deployed. That's it. The change will get closed now. Now, as we saw how the change will work from the submission stage to closure stage, we have this release feature right in between where we will configure the release. Let's say that you have some critical period like the Q4 which Zilker had. In that period, if you do any release, it is gonna affect the business, right? So for this, we will have the conflict detection. Let me show you how to do the conflict detection. So go back to settings, and under automation you will have conflict detection. In conflict detection, we have two options: freeze window and maintenance window. Freeze windows are designed time slots that restrict changes. The purpose is to minimize the risk in production environment during critical periods when resources might be unavailable. For example, creating a freeze window for Zilker, especially given the chaos during the Q4 due to lack of change control, might have been helped by bringing the structure and predictability to the change manager. To create a freeze window, click on New Freeze Window button, add the name, add the description, yeah, and you can choose if this particular freeze window is applicable only for the services or any specific sites or for all the changes. Then if you are choosing services, you will choose which are the affected services for this particular freeze window. Then you will choose if you want to apply this freeze to the release schedule or downtime schedule or even at the creation. Then based on the condition, you will schedule this window. Let's say that I want the schedule window to be 30th to 7th of August. So in between this time, I will not be able to release any change as per the freeze configuration that I have here. Now let me cancel this. Next, we have the maintenance window. A maintenance window is a pre-planned time slot during which we perform updates, fixes, or improvements to our system. These activities are scheduled in advance to minimize disruption, usually during weekends or late night hours when fewer people are working. To create a new freeze window, click on this button, choose for which service this particular maintenance window is going to be applicable for, and what are the affected services, and where you want to apply this to. And once you do this configuration, choose the condition. Based on that, you can schedule the timer. So let's say that I want to do this deployment over the weekend, right? So I will choose August 2nd to August 3rd. So only in this particular window they will schedule the maintenance, which will not affect the business. Now I'm going to hit on cancel. So we have seen how we can establish a robust change management. But what about larger initiatives that involved multiple teams, milestones, and timelines? This is where the project management comes in. Now let me show you how to create a project template. Go back to the application, and I'm going to the project template under templates and forms. Here, hit on new project template, and you will add the title for this project template. You will choose the fields that you want. So I don't want, if you do not want to have the priority, you can simply delete it. And if you want to add any additional fields, you can drag and drop down the respective field type, and you can customize this and hit on save. So once you hit on save, we will create a project. So go to the project module, click on new project, add the title, select the priority, and once you update all of the fields, you will hit on add project. Now let me open the project that I have created earlier. So this is the project. In the details tab, you can see the priority of this particular project, the project code, the requester, department, estimated hours, estimated cost, and the scheduled start time and end time. And also, once the project is completed, you can update the actual start and actual end time. So once we create the project, the next step is to add the members to the project. Go to this members tab and click on this add member to add the users. So once you select the user, you will select which project role that I want to define. So by default, we have provided project admin, project manager, team leader, and team member. If you want to create your custom project role, let me go to the other tab. Under customization, we have project management, where you will be able to create multiple roles as per your requirement. So the project admin is the one who has the full control over the project module. And the project management manager is the person who is leading one or more project. And team leader will have control to milestones, and team member will have control to task. If you want to create a new project role, click on this button, add the role name, add the access permission, and define the view permission and hit on save. Once you add this, you will get that option in this drop down. So contractor is the custom role that I have created, and I'm going to hit on save. That's it. This person will get added as a contractor. Now, let me go back to the next tab, which is milestone. So, once the project is created, there will be multiple milestones associated to the project, right? Such as for the firewall upgrade, we need the firewall procurement and staging, then configuration, then testing and validation. So, you can create multiple milestones and assign it to respective person. And while creating the milestone, you will add the owner as well. So once you create the milestone, the next step is to create the task. You can create multiple tasks, then you can assign the task to the respective milestones by selecting those tasks and clicking on this assign milestone option. So like this, you will assign the task to the respective milestone. And in the summary page, you will be able to see the exact summary of all the milestones and tasks that are completed, or if you want to track them by status or by due date, you will be able to perform those actions. Then comes the association. In association, you will be able to associate the requests that are associated to this particular project or change that initiated this project by clicking on this attach option. And also, let me navigate to the change request that we just created. Even in this uh, change module, in the implementation stage, under association, you have the option to attach the project, right? You can click on this button, you can choose the project that you want to associate, and you can click on associate so that that respective project will get associated. Now, let me reload the page here. So as you see, we have associated the project to the change management, right? Even if you come to the project, you will be able to see the respective change. And also, if you have any incidents or releases that are attached, you can perform those attachments here. Let's say that once the project is completed, each technician who or each member who involved in this project will update the timesheet. The once the timesheet is completed, they will go ahead and they will close the project. And also, we have other automations in project module. Let me switch to the PPT again. Okay. So we will have the Gantt view, which will help us to visualize the entire project timeline, clearly seeing what's happening when and who is responsible. This make it easy to track the project plans across different phases. And also, we will be able to mark the milestones, critical events, and group all the related tasks under each milestone to maintain structure, which we just saw. Then we have resource management. Using resource management, we will be able to assign tasks to the technician based on their availability and workload. This will make sure that the right people are working at the right task at the right time. Now, let me switch back to the application and show you about the Gantt view and the resource management. So inside the project, you see these lines, right? This is the Gantt view. If you click on the Gantt view, you will be able to see the timeline of this project and the timeline of each milestone and each task that are associated to this milestone. If you expand this, you can see all the tasks that are associated to this milestone. So based on this view, you will be able to plan future milestones and the tasks that are involved in this respective project. Now let me close this and go to the resource management. If you click on resource management, you will be able to see all the users that are associated in this particular project. And you can see the load hours as well. So I'm going to change this from hours to months. So you will be able to change the date filter, and you can see who are the users that are assigned to which many projects or which many milestones. And here you can see the total number of hours in that particular week or in that particular month, and how many hours the user has been actually occupied. By having this data, you will be able to plan and assign tasks to the users accordingly. So that covers the project module, where we saw how to manage project tasks, phases, milestones, and tasks using tools like Gantt chart. With this, teams can plan and execute project in a structured and efficient manner. Now let's do the recap. Zilker approached IT transformation in a structured and phased manner using ServiceDesk Plus Cloud to streamline both change and project management. They started by configuring essential change attributes, including CAB members, detailed change stages, and standardized forms to ensure every change request had complete and upfront information. Then they designed custom changes and release templates, helping their team to follow consistent process for every change type. And to improve the risk evaluation, they used risk assessment questionnaires and even trained Zia, our AI assistant, to predict risk based on the historical data like type, urgency, and impact. They brought everything together with visual workflow builders, making the change and release lifecycle clear, traceable, and easy to follow. In parallel, they also used the automations like freeze window to block the changes during business critical periods and set up change specific automations to manage each step from submission to closure. And finally, when the scope of a change expanded, they handled it through project management using Gantt charts, milestone tracking, and resource planning to ensure smooth execution without any disruptions. With all this in place, Zilker was able to reduce risk, maintain control, and deliver changes with confidence. So, if you want to know more about the application, you can go to our support portal at servicedeskplus.com/support.html, where you can find the admin guides, the release notes, where you can find the new features, or if you want to know about the product, you can find the product videos, and also you will have access to our community. Or if you feel like you need more assistance, you can drop an email to hello@servicedeskplus.com. That's it. Thank you very much for your time, and we will see you in the next session.